want to talk about life and how life has been guiding you. Maybe you took a turn, and maybe you think you took the wrong way home. So now it's time for us to line up to all the energy, and that is to create 2022. Yes, I said it. It's time for 2022. Time for us to set our intentions. It's also time for us to reflect where we've been. Well, what a journey that's been. And how you have the power to shift and change through anything. I was giving some thought, some understanding to the transformation of the energy of the butterfly. I was looking outside at nature, and I saw the butterfly. And I thought how this butterfly holds this magnificent energy of transformation, and how the energy of this butterfly just lightly glides through the air, seemingly calm, seemingly peaceful, aligned in the flow. And every movement of the butterfly is part of a butterfly effect. Its energy creates additional energy that is shared out into the world, just like everything you do is shared out into the world. Your thoughts, your words, your acts of kindness, it all has a vibrational effect. But as I admired the butterfly in all of its beauty, and it was a beautiful one, I thought about us, mere mortals, humans on the earth. I know comparing us to an insect might seem a little off, but I had to look at how so many pieces of nature, so many pieces of the world is always in a state of change and flux and transformation. And how we as humans don't always take as much recognition for our actions, the good deeds that we've done. We have to applaud ourselves. We also need to take responsibility for the actions that maybe have had a cause and effect that has caused someone pain. And I thought about this butterfly just flying off into the distance. And I thought, how did it become a butterfly? What did it have to go through to reach such beauty? To be able to soar to new heights? To gracefully land on a petal? Or dance in the nectar of a flower? Sounds so beautiful, right? And I know you're sitting there saying, well, SarahSpiritual, I ain't dancing in no nectar of no flower, right? You're feeling a little stuck. But I had to go back in time. And I had to look at where we've been. And I had to look at where a butterfly was before it was a butterfly. It was a various form of caterpillar, just crawling away, praying one of us didn't step on it. But because its mind isn't wired the same way ours is, probably didn't even care. Just was cruising along. And it comes to the point where it's ready to transform. And it begins to form this balled up energy. And as it forms this energetic ball, it begins to surround itself in this cocoon, kind of like our 2020. It went into a cocoon. And as it's in cocoon mode, it begins to dissolve. Now, for us humans, the thought that we may have to endure dissolving ourselves, breaking ourselves down, is a little off-putting, scary. But this seemingly innocent, yet unique caterpillar breaks down, and perhaps it has cells of a mere 50. But these cells, in the process of this metamorphosis, can turn into 50,000, so science says. And in the energy of this metamorphosis, it drops down into this liquid and begins to form its body, its eyes, its antenna, its ability to reproduce, and its beautiful, magnificent wings. All in the confines of this chrysalis, this cocoon. And holding itself in a tight quarters, unable to move, except to dissolve and rebirth itself, waiting the time as it sits in this beautiful energy of the cocoon to break free. How many of us, because we're afraid of change, have been unable to stay in our chrysalis long enough to allow everything to just break down? I'm not talking disaster. I'm talking just allow things to change. Allow some of the cracks to show, so you can chisel away and rebuild different areas of your life. You see, often we prevent ourselves from going into this energy of our cocoon, our chrysalis, because we're uncertain as to what lays before us. And the thought that it would be a better life and a more beautiful life, because we have the ability to choose, we choose otherwise. We often hold ourselves back. We think that we can restructure without losing everything. We think that we can restructure without ending a relationship that doesn't work. We think we can have a new life by simply changing a job, when it's really not the environment of the workplace, it's the actual job we're doing. We think that we can teach our children a better life by showing them a different school because it's something wrong with the school system, instead of looking at what we need to change in the family dynamics that opens up the energy for the child to make a choice that's perhaps detrimental to their future. We don't always want to go through those major changes. And we don't give credit to ourselves that when we've emerged, those of us who've been brave enough to go through the changes, that then, in the fullness of this rebirth, we hold this magnificent energy that has this impact on everything around us. So many of us, in the early stages of life, in the womb, we were just, a little embryo that morphed into a little baby. And what do our parents do when we first arrive home? They swaddle us and they put us in like a little cocoon. They wrap us to keep us warm. They want to mirror the experience of being within the mother's womb. And they try to shield us and protect us. But then as we begin to struggle and fuss, they begin to unswaddle us. They begin to let us move around. And we begin to observe things and take on some of their characteristics, their traits, their ways, their beliefs. And we go about life with our own soul's purpose and reason. And then, of course, the energy of the family, the tribe, those who raised you, the thoughts, the ways of life, beliefs. And we move ourselves into the journey with this new lease on life as we graduate high school and go on to pick a career, maybe go off to college. And we think at this young age of 18, 19, and 20, we are invincible. But there always comes a time after that where that becomes a little more real. Something unexpected happens in the life that causes us to take a moment and look back and think, I learned a lesson, didn't I? So I'm sure all of you in your journey in the early years, coming out of college or your first job, you got a real taste of life. And maybe you picked a path that was for your own desire, and maybe you picked a path because it was what made sense to you and it was logical. But in everyone's life, there comes this time where we are in our own metamorphosis, where, unlike the caterpillar, we don't have to completely destroy ourselves and turn to liquid and be reborn, but there are elements of our life that will crumble, that will be destroyed. It could be through the loss of a marriage, could be through a loss of a family member. It could be through our own observation of self and our, sabotaging of our journey and recognizing our flaws and our faults and knowing that we need to make a change. Maybe that's through an addiction. But however that comes about, there's always the moment. But going through it, we don't ever imagine that we could be like the butterfly. And when we look at the butterfly in all its elegance and its beauty and its ability to just soar and catch the wind and just ride the breeze, we, like the butterfly, have this butterfly effect on everything and everyone around us. So even the process that we go through in our metamorphosis is felt by the world. How we behave around others, the way we interpret the experience, and whether we allow it to make us stronger, greater, more victorious, or we use that metamorphosis and instead of growing from it, we allow it to continue to push us down further and we allow it to destroy us. Because we can't take the experience of change. So as we close out this 2021, and we've got a few weeks, make note, give thought. What are the times in your life that you've had your cocoon moment, where you had to hunker down and go in and really do an overhaul? And what did it yield you? Where did it take you? How did you soar from an experience that maybe at that moment just seemed uncertain, difficult? We can all go through a change. And every effect that we have in this world is, of course, vibrating out. So ask yourself, as you begin to set sights on what's to come next for you through the changes that have been the past few years, where do you place yourself? Do you see yourself where you are now? Or are you brave enough to let go of things and maybe let some things crumble around you and just step through the rubble and move to something different? More profound for your soul, more rewarding. Something that just makes you want to sing, makes you want to soar. We can learn a lot from the butterfly. Because in its not knowing that the process could be perceived as painful, it accepts it as a necessary evolutionary experience so that it can transcend to something greater and higher. So it can see itself on the ground, and through this process, know that in a short time, it can soar above the treetops. We can learn a lot from the butterfly.